Hello artists, and welcome back to part 2 of your watercolor techniques. You can keep working on the same paper. I'm going to be working here on some scrap paper. Today is all about experimenting and trying new things. So if you're ready for the next paper, whatever works for you. Now, I'm going to show you the fancy techniques that we've got using the extra materials I told you to get at the beginning of the part 1 video. So I'm going to start with using the masking tape, and we're going to do a technique called masking. You can actually see here, I tried this using like an artificial leaf off of some like artificial flowers and did some masking that way. Didn't work super well, but I encourage you to also experiment with things if you like. But using the masking tape, the blue painter's tape doesn't work incredibly well. The regular masking tape works much better. So if you have that, take a piece of that, maybe stick it on your shirt first, because actually it's a little too sticky, the white masking tape, and that'll help it to not rip your paper. With this kind, it's not as sticky, so you don't have to do that first. I'm just gonna take a little piece here, and you can kind of rip this however you want. Or don't rip it, whatever size shape you want to have with the area you are masking, or you can cut it if you want cleaner lines. I'm just going to mask off these areas here. If you're using this blue tape like I am, make sure you get it pressed down really good. Okay, so now I am going to paint over this area. I think I'm going to try it with yellow. Why not? Cover that area up. And so the purpose of the masking tape is that it masks the area that I don't want any paint in, kind of like I have with my leaf one here. It masks this off so this part stayed white. So by using the masking tape, it's going to cover those parts and it's going to stay white on the paper. It can be really good to utilize the white as a color in your work. So that's our first one. I'm going to let that dry before I peel the masking tape off. While we're waiting for that to dry, let's try another one that's going to need to dry, and that is with the salt. Salt can look super cool if you do it with like a galaxy or underwater. I've seen people use it as like a way of doing leaves on trees that are off in the distance. The key with the salt one is you have to have wet paint. If your paint isn't wet, it's not going to work. So I got to put the salt on right away. I'm going to take my salt shaker. And voila, I'm going to let that dry. Basically what's going to happen is that the salt is going to react with the paint. I don't know if you noticed, but as I poured the salt on, the salt kind of sucked the water up into it a little bit. And so we need that to completely dry. And if we're doing it at school, I might even say wait till the next day to rub the salt off to see the effects that it has. All right, the next thing I'm going to show you is using some plastic wrap. So this is just saran wrap. You could do this with any kind of plastic that's on any kind of packaging. You could use bubble wrap is really cool for this. You could use fabric, doilies, anything that can make an impression, because that's technically what we're doing, is we're doing impressing. So I'm just going to cut a piece off here, kind of haphazard. And this is another one that the paint needs to be wet. What color should I use? Go for this one. Wonder how much this will work. I've never tried this with this color before. Always try new things. Okay. So I'm gonna crinkle up my plastic wrap and put it over the area I want to have texture. That needs time to dry, and I don't really feel like holding it, so I'm gonna just like put my eraser on top of it to hold it there, weight it down. Okay, so we're gonna wait for that one to dry as well, and I'm gonna show you another kind of impressing. So this is impressing, like I said, because we're making an impression into it. Up here we've got our salt, not done yet though. And over here we have some masking. If you want to get really fancy, you can actually also buy the stuff called masking fluid, or you can even use rubber cement as masking and cover those areas up. But another kind of impressing is using paper towels. So here we have plastic wrap. I'm gonna now do one with paper towels. Spell towel, right? Jeez. Okay. So I've actually kind of experimented with this a little bit, and I found that really absorbent paper towels don't work that well. Like this here that I've been using as my blotting towel is a Bounty one. It's super absorbent. Doesn't really work as well on this technique as if you use like a cheaper, like a napkin, or like at school we have those really thin paper towels. Those work a lot better. So you've got like napkins from like fast food restaurant or something, that's probably ideal. But if you just have regular paper towels, just try it. Just note that it might not be the best results. So let's try this with some green. All right, I'm gonna crinkle up my napkin here so I get some like edges and dab that into the paint. And you can kind of see I'm getting some texture. It didn't work super well. I think I needed more paint, so I'm gonna try it again. All right, let's try that again. Yeah, there we go. So I'm getting some textures in this. And this can look super cool if you're doing like clouds, or you want to create some texture in some plant life that you're doing. Good stuff. All right. Let that one dry. We got our paper towel going. So another really fun one is using the rubbing alcohol. So at school I have like little droppers you can use. You've got something like that at home that works well. I don't have anything like that at home, so I am just going to pour a little bit of the rubbing alcohol into this cap. Now, like I said, you can also use hand sanitizer because it has rubbing alcohol in it. So maybe you just like flick it in there or something. We just want like really small drops of it. So I'm going to show you, I always like how it looks in purple. So I'm going to show you with the purple. But you guys are welcome to use any colors you want on any of this stuff. So just get a little wash going here. Again, this has to be wet paint that you're working with. Maybe I'll do a little wet and wet. Let's put some blue into that. Okay, so I got my wet paint, got my little bit of rubbing alcohol. I'm gonna let it, just a tiny little drop into it. Ooh, look how it reacts. And that I accidentally put 2 drops. Let's see if I can just get 1. Yeah. So it has like this reaction with it that's super cool, and it makes like these little rings. So I hope you have some rubbing alcohol at home and you can give that one a try. And I think if you do it with hand sanitizer, it'll look a little bit different because it's not as much alcohol, but give that a go. This can look awesome if you're doing like something underwater or planets. Those look great with the rubbing alcohol. Okay, so still kind of waiting for those things over there to dry. I'm gonna show you one that's always super fun to do, and that is splattering. So a few different ways you can do some splattering. If you happen to have at home a fan brushes work really well for splattering. I don't expect you to have a fan brush at home though. So I think using a flat brush works pretty well. I keep getting kind of stuck on the same brush. Typically it's probably a good thing to switch up your different brushes. So we're gonna try a couple different things. Using my flat brush here, a little bit bigger one. Let's try it with some red. Or is that gonna look like blood? Maybe. Oh well, let's see what happens. I like to take my paintbrush on the back of my finger here and just kind of tap it and let the paint go when I'm splattering. Although you don't get a ton of control that way. Let's change colors. I don't want to do too much red splatter. We'll switch to blue. You can also take your fingers like right in it and they can kind of control the splatter a little bit more that way. Let's try it with a round brush instead. Here's the back of the finger. It's really not much different, but then with my fingers, that doesn't work quite as well. So find what works for you and what you're trying to do with your splattering. Something else that can be really fun is using a straw. If you happen to have a straw at home, I don't have one like handy, but if you have like a lot of paint on your surface, kind of like a puddle, you could take a straw at this point and blow on it and watch the paint go in different directions. Let's see if I can just blow on it from here. Not as cool without the straw. You could kind of pick it up and let gravity do things and, ooh, no. This is being really stubborn. Usually it's just like, I'm gonna go everywhere. I can kind of control my brush then. Maybe give it a little bit of drip effect. If you go to straw, you should try the straw. Usually it works to just blow on it, but it's not working for me. Okay, we lost the eraser. I wonder if it's dry under here yet. I'm a little scared. I'm not gonna do that one yet. Let's take the tape off the masking. That should be dry by now. So you can see I've got a couple places with the blue tape because it's not quite as sticky that the paint actually went under the tape, so it's not completely masked off. But that's one of those moments we'll just say, it's a happy accident, we're gonna figure out how to make it work. So you can see now those areas have been masked off. Okay, let's try taking this off now. Yeah, we got a little bit of texture. It's probably a little bit hard to see on this because I used the yellow, but there's a bit of texture happening in that yellow spot. Yeah. All right. The salt, I think it's probably still not dry enough to rub it off, so we're gonna wait on that another moment. Now, if you've got some crayons or if you have oil pastels, this is their moment to shine. So these are made with wax, so you can use them as a resistant to the water. So if I try to draw something, kind of coming back to my flower motif here. I'll try one with the crayon, do a flower there, and then I'm gonna try one with the oil pastels. Maybe on this one I'll do something with the white one. Ooh. I'm gonna be cheese balls. I'm gonna write a hidden message for you. See if you can guess what I wrote. Super cheesy. Okay. And maybe I'll add a little bit of shading into my crayon one. Okay. Now I'm gonna come back over it with my paint. Try and decide what color. Muy importante. Okay. Notice how it is resisting the crayon and the oil pastel. So if you want to do some drawing along with this, you can totally do that using crayons. And the ones I have are literally just the kind that come in like a kid's meal at a restaurant. Not sure why I have them. All right, let's see what the hidden messages I wrote to you in the white. If you look very closely, it says, I love art. Obviously, that's why I'm here. All right, so There you go, there's a few more techniques for you. Before we go, the last thing is I want you to try using all of your different paintbrushes and seeing how they look. So just take turns with each brush and seeing what you can do with each one. If you take the flat brush like on its side versus using like the tip of it. If you've got a round brush, how does that look? Can use just the tip of that one. With your smaller brushes, just seeing what those can do. Perhaps you also have a smaller flat brush. What do the marks look like from each brush? And once you've experimented with all that, you are finished. Thanks for joining.